Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is June the 24th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. The lasagna got. Happy Monday. Hopefully you're getting all the good Garfield vibes today. Let's see. What was the breakdown for my day? Overall, it was good. Work was generally low paced, went by pretty quick, no hassle. I kind of mentioned the whole 30-year anniversary field day thing last week, so I got more details about how that's going down. So essentially, for this whole week, we get amended break time if you want it. So like instead of a 15, you can get a 20, or instead of a 30 minute unpaid break, like your lunch or whatever, you can take a whole hour to do whatever you want. And then there's like little treats and stuff. And then I guess on Wednesday we're gonna have a big meal day or something like that. But yeah, all the while, big tent, all that whole thing, that whole affair. So I guess it's gonna be there for the whole week. So that's, I guess, interesting. I mean, overall, it's fine. I know I was pretty grumpy about it, but it's whatever. I opted for the 20-minute breaks just because those are paid, and I don't want to burn out hours out of my paycheck. It's just not worth it just so I can lay about. You know what I mean? It'd be different if it was paid, but yeah, that's not. Let's see though. Food corner from last night. I decided that I really wanted some sausage, so I made some hot sausage. I put one on a bolillo roll. Then I made a couple pieces of toast, and I got some coleslaw and some baked beans. It was a nice little. I mean, I don't want to say it's scran. I feel like you're just making bangers and toast. I don't think that's that crazy. But yeah, it was good. Also, it was hot sausage, so it was spicy. But I would say it was not that spicy. It's Johnsonville. I don't know. Maybe it's spicy for those old cowboys. Anyway, so that's the personal news. We're kind of there and done with that. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll go ahead and get into some news. Hit the topics. All right. First story comes out of the BBC. Israeli army strapped wounded Palestinian to jeep. The Israeli military has said its forces violated protocol by strapping a wounded Palestinian man to the front of their vehicle during a raid in the West Bank city of Jenin. The IDF confirmed the incident after it was captured on video and shared on social media. An IDF statement said the man was wounded in exchange of fire during the raid in which he was a suspect. The injured man's family said that when they asked for an ambulance, the army took him, strapped him to the bonnet of their Jeep, and drove off. The individual was eventually transferred to the Red Crescent for treatment. The IDF said the incident would be investigated. So essentially, they shot him, strapped him to a Jeep, drove with him attached to it. Then eventually they forcefully put him onto an ambulance and then get him to get care, of which he's inevitably been even worse off than the initial injury because of his treatment. I fail to see how any of this is humane treatment from a quote-unquote civilized moral force that's supposed to be the IDF. But yeah, they're investigating it like they are often want to do. And I'm sure they're not going to find too much out of it. Or if they do, it's like, okay, well, we let that guy go. They let him go back to him or her, go back to their job. But at the end of the day, it's not punishment. There's not any acceptance of wrongdoing there. So yeah, I mean, that was just something that I wanted to hit on and not leave in the dust. Also on Sunday, apparently Benjamin Netanyahu piped up Just kind of hitting PBS News real quick. Netanyahu continues to claim the U.S. is withholding weapons from Israel despite denials. Let's see here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet on Sunday that there had been a dramatic drop in U.S. weapons deliveries for Israel's war effort in Gaza, doubling down on a claim that the Biden administration has denied and underscoring the growing strains between two allies. So yeah, I don't know if he was doing this for points. I don't know if this is actually the case, and like maybe the U.S. is actually slow walking some weapons to Israel, as if that's some kind of like tip of the hat, being like, hey, we are doing the right thing, huh? We're like not giving them as much weapons as fast, I guess. Don't you like that? But, then again, I wonder if they're like fine with Netanyahu piping up about it because it doesn't do anything and it lets people know that that's what's happening if it is. But, spokesmen like Jack Kirby are kind of like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, I don't understand what he's saying. He sounds crazy right now. Sounds sad that he's saying these things that are just so untrue and don't make any sense. But more or less he said he was perplexed, is the quote there. But I don't know. I don't know what to make too much out of this. At the end of the day, they still have more than enough ammunition to continue this genocide that they're doing. I don't know. It's very weird for Netanyahu to do this. I don't know if because even people in his cabinet were like, bro, don't do this. Like, please don't say this like in front of a camera. Like, cool story, bro, but just don't do it. And then he's like, no, I'm gonna do it. Like, this is a good idea. And maybe this plays to a domestic audience in Israel better than I think it does to, I don't know, an American like myself, or internationally. I don't know, but I guess time will tell there. So yeah, those are some Israel Gaza news that I wanted to talk about. So we can call that covered. Let's move on to India. I got this story from, what is this place? The Times of India. I think I initially tried to do a CNN article. It more or less does the same thing, but it was just a little bit too anecdotal for me, and I kind of wanted just to get to that point. But yeah, a high-level committee led by Dr. K. Radhakrishnan had been formed to address transparency and reform issues within the National Testing Agency, or NTA. This follows allegations of irregularities in the NEET UG exams. A 7-member high-level committee has been formed by the Center to oversee transparency and examine the functioning of the National Testing Agency, according to sources at the Education Ministry. Let me scroll down a little further here, sorry. The NTA is responsible for conducting the NEET UG exams, which has been under scrutiny due to irregularities in the exam process. These allegations have sparked protests across the country, with many calling for the disbandment of the NTA. Concerns were heightened when an unprecedented 67 candidates achieved perfect scores, prompting further questions about the integrity of the examination process. And this is like a big national test. It has a lot to do with your future. It's very important that you score well. A lot of people they spend their whole educational career to be like, hey, I got to do well on this test so I can go somewhere with my life. So imagine you go through it and you come to find out this year. And this has been kind of a thing that's kind of been a growing concern, but the number, I guess, has just been so big that it's just hard to look away from this time. Where it's like, wait, so apparently 67 people have cheated. There's a whole racket for cheating, which there always is when it comes to test taking and things like that. I see that all the time in the States. But essentially people are like, well, what am I going to do now? What are we going to do? And it's like, well, all we can do is let you retake the test, and you can do that. But imagine how harrowing that is. All because there was a leak, and because of that leak, now people have this information, and I don't know. Call me rooting for the bad guy here, but that's crazy. Y'all just went for perfect scores. That's like a 101. You don't do that. You gotta get a couple of them wrong. Come on. Not that I'm trying to help the scammers or anything out there, but just use your brain. Think. Let me pull a little bit more here. The prestigious medical and academic entrance exams, or NEET, National Eligibility Cum Interest Test, and UGC NET, University Grants Commission National Eligibility Test, has been enrolled in controversy since the May of 2024. Allegations of irregularities in NEET UG including paper leaks and questionable marking practices, sparked outrage and protests across the country. This turmoil culminated in the retest of NEET for affected students and the postponement of NEET PG and UGC NET June 2024 exams. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big shakeup. I don't know if it's really going to make any change. Most likely the beach is kind of going to go on. There's maybe going to be, I know there's an investigation going on. I'm sure there's going to be like, busting of heads and, people are going to maybe get put on trial, so to speak, or so to speak is busting of heads. I'm sure no one's going to get beat up. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, hopefully there's some change here. But yeah, I mean, me personally, my 2 cents, if it was me, I would not want to have to take a test like this. You know what I'm saying? Or if I had to take a test like this, you have to ensure me that, like, these things are going to be protected. Like, the integrity of the test is going to be protected. You know what I mean? Not that I truly care personally. I just want to get my shit done and get on to the next screen of things. But I would hate to be in a situation where, like, my test is voided because someone else cheated. Like, y'all got to make sure that that never happens to me, right? Like, that's how I would feel about it, personally. Otherwise, what's the point of me taking it? I would just feel like there's just no real reason other than the fact that my life depends on it, But yeah, I mean, I really don't have too much to relate. In high school, we had the OGT, or the Ohio Graduation Test, and I was really scared and nervous about that because like my whole high school was like supposed to be hanging on that. If you fucked up on that, you would be pretty screwed, and you have to like retake it until you did decent. I was lucky to be able to one-shot that. It felt good. Then I guess at a college level, even though I never finished college, I was like in one semester and out. I did do the ACT because that was like the thing to do at the time. That was in vogue for the Midwest. I did okay on that. Still a lot of pressure. I remember having to like go to like an off like site campus or whatever. I don't know why I said off site, like it was like a black site, but like I had to go to some random school and take the test, and I was like pretty nervous, but we got it done. It was a thing to do. I don't know. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've never been a good test taker. Like, I was always the type of person when like you give me the material, I can tell you everything I need to tell you about it, right? Like, I can learn it, I can ingest it, I can like do the classwork a-okay just fine, I can do the homework just fine. But like the anxiety and the pressure of a test, it just all culminates to me like fucking it up, and I always hate that. So my condolences to the people having to go through this shit. I'm sure it's very frustrating and very stressful. And like I said, I know CNN had a couple of examples of like students and just going through them, including one that like had disabilities and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to check that out if you want to read more. Let's see here. The next one comes from WLWT, I believe also CNN. But hiker missing for 10 days in California mountains survived by drinking a gallon of water each day. A California man spent 10 days stranded in the mountains after he got lost on a hike, relying in part on large volumes of water to survive. Lucas McClish, 34, set out for what he thought would be a 3-hour hike in the Santa Cruz Mountains on June 11th. But he became lost in the mountains, partially due to the destruction of local landmarks in recent wildfires. His family officially reported him missing when he didn't show up for a Father's Day dinner on June 16th, triggering search and rescue efforts. McClish was eventually found on Thursday thanks to a drone from the Santa Cruz Sheriff's Office, according to an ex-post from Cal Fire San Mateo. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. Which said McClish was found in Big Basin Redwoods State Park, California's oldest state park and home to towering Ancient Coast redwood trees. Now, I was surprised just seeing from the thumbnail. Like, he looked real ragged. He was like on his castaway shit. I'm like, it was only 10 days. But don't get me wrong, that's very, that's crazy. That'd be so scary. That's definitely some life and death shit. Especially when you realize, like, he did not have much on him. Like, let me just go ahead and read what he had real quick. I had a flashlight and a pair of folding scissors, like a Leatherman tool, and that was about it. Which I'm like, I don't want to like rag here on a person who went through it, but I would say this is a warning, not as someone who hikes and does a lot of outdoor stuff. But make sure you have your essentials. And I know it can seem like, hey, I'm just going on a nice little jaunt for a couple of hours. It's nothing, but you should prepare for the worst. You never know what's going to happen to you out there. It's the wild, wild. Well, I can say this. It's the wild, wild west out there, okay? It's the wild blue yonder. You got to be careful. At least bring the essentials. I mean, glad he had some of this stuff, but like, hell, even like a little bit of jerky, things like that. I don't know. Just be prepared. What else did I want to add though? He attributed his survival to drinking lots of water. I just make sure I drank a gallon of water every day. But then after getting close to the end of it, my body needed food and some kind of sustenance. So, I mean, they say that like water is like the most important thing. You can go days without eating, but like you can only go so long without water. I know I should know that off the top of my head, but I don't. I don't know how he was able to accumulate the water, but I imagine just like, he's a survivalist, at least enough to make that happen. So yeah, I'm glad he was found. This is overall a good story. Normally I like to close out on a good story, but there's an update that I wanted to get. It's local. So I'm going to go ahead and do my last break, and we will give our condolences. Random bit of a side while, we're kind of in between. RIP to Donald Sutherland and Willie Mays last week. I didn't talk about that. I didn't, get into it. Sorry, but definitely shout out to them. Here's to y'all. Bing. Okay. I said condolences and I thought about that. From the Columbus Dispatch. Man who may have been struck by Banshee roller coaster at Kings Island has died. The man who may have been hit by a roller coaster at Kings Island has died, according to the Hamilton County Coroner's Office. Artenaro Nelson, 38, of Wilmington, Ohio, was pronounced dead on Friday at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, where he was flown for treatment after being found with a serious injury inside a restricted area near the Banshee roller coaster. It turns out we found out that the reason he was trying to get past the gate, the reason he got past the gate and winds up getting hit, is because he lost his keys. So that at least adds enough context to make me understand of like, well, I can't get home. I'd have to like pay a bunch of money for an Uber. Let me just do this. And it's like, I'm not okay in the behavior. It's bad. It's still very stupid. But I will say I was annoyed just because I was scrolling and doing my thing on Facebook, and I saw someone piping up about this, and they said, oh, crazy someone to do this so they could jump in line. I'm like, what? And I'm just saying, that's the power of fucking fake news and people just kind of going in half cocked. And don't get me wrong, I've made mistakes too, but at least on here, I'll put a little corrections corner if I fuck that shit up. At least I'm open to that. I think I just wound up putting that motherfucker on snooze or whatever, but because I hate when people just pipe up and trying to get really moralistic online, and they really shouldn't be. I know I'm a hypocrite, but anyway, that bothered me. But for me, this is just an update I wanted to talk about. It's I feel like all life's important, and this is local news. And unfortunately, a Banshee, took a life. I feel like they're very tactful with the may, and maybe I should add a may or allegedly somewhere in here, throwing up the quotations. But yeah. RIP to Nelson, condolences to him and the family. That's you go out for something like this, and just to have fun, and that's a shame that you wind up losing something that's important like that, like your keys, and you're in that kind of a lurch. But yeah, that's it. I don't know. I don't want to get too heavy on the last part there. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. You become a newsie today. Let's see here. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. And then feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Shout out to the people who are checking it out on TikTok, even if it is just a little bit of hey, I scrolled past you. Thank you. That's awesome. You're doing me a solid with that. I love to see that. And any new follows, we love to see that too. Also appreciate the new follows on YouTube. I love to see that. We're at 73. We broke the 69. Nice. So please keep that up. We'd love to see that. Comments are always cool. They're great. Hit that like button, that heart button. Sharing's caring. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.